So today I wanted to talk about failure. So in the last video I produced, I made a mistake. There's some audio glitches in that video that I'm not really happy with. Now I could view that as a failure, but actually it's feedback. I learned things by getting it wrong. So let's get upgraded. Like not rushing to meet a deadline and trying to get out a certain number of videos in a set period of time. I realise it's really more important the quality of the video that I produce, and I should have spent more time reviewing it and making sure the sound was correct before I posted it. The video is only 7 minutes long, so if I'd have spent 7 extra minutes listening back to that video, I could have made sure that I posted it without that audio glitch in it. When we make a mistake, we often think about that as a failure, and that's really a wrong mindset. It's not a failure when something goes wrong and you can learn from it. Take, for example, learning a musical instrument. When you start learning a musical instrument, there's quite often more wrong notes than right notes. Well, that's part of the process. That's how you learn to play. You just embrace it and carry on. And it helps build confidence, actually. Actually, we often learn much more from our mistakes than we do from our successes. And even as you get better, quite often when you're playing, there's still the occasional wrong note that creeps in. Part of learning to play in public in front of people is learning to accept the fact that things don't always go right. There are occasionally the odd wrong note. It's about having the confidence to keep playing and not stop. The way you learn to count or add up is through getting it wrong and learning that 2 + 3 is not 6. And you have to really apply that to things in general in life. Do not let mistakes stop you from achieving what you want to do, from your ambitions. So if you want to live a happier, more joyous life, the thing to do is to realize that it's all feedback. Getting things wrong is a natural part of learning, and environments that don't allow you to make mistakes are not healthy. You need to change your mindset in a lot of cases, and I know there's a lot of pressure on us now to be perfect all the time, and life just doesn't work that way. There are things you can't predict and you don't know about, and that's going to lead to mistakes. And we have to be much more forgiving of ourselves and other people and enjoy the process. Designing and developing software for a living, which is what I do, requires experimentation. It requires being able to try things out, work out what works and work out what doesn't work. And working out what doesn't work is often way more important than working out what does work. Learning is a lot more fun when you accept the fact that things are going to go wrong, you're going to make mistakes, and life is much more fun when you take that attitude too. Perfectionism is a bit of a curse in some ways. It's really good to aspire to be better at what you do. That's great. But don't let it become something that stops you from trying. Particularly when you're younger, experimenting with things, making mistakes is just a fantastic way to learn. My grandson's a toddler, and last week we were playing. He had this rolled up sock that he was throwing, and I couldn't catch it. And he thought that was so funny. My failure to be able to catch this rolled up sock had him and me in fits of laughter. And what a wonderful attitude, right? He didn't see me as failing to catch the sock. It was part of the game. It was funny. Richard Feynman was an amazing physicist, but one of the things that made him so amazing was his propensity to make mistakes or to be willing to try things. And fear of making mistakes often stops us from trying things. It stops people from composing great pieces of music because they are worried about what people will think if it's not quite perfect. It stops people from making video content because they're worried that they'll get bad comments. A few years ago, I started trying to make videos, and I was terrible. I don't like being in front of the camera. I've spent most of my life trying to be behind the camera, originally taking photographs of other people or shooting videos. Being in front of the camera and talking to a camera is not something that comes naturally to me. I'm fairly shy and reserved in a lot of cases. So to get better at it, A few years ago when I went on, when I was traveling, I decided to just shoot a video every day and post it. And the first few videos are actually quite terrible. I'm not sure that the final videos are wonderful, but I got better as I did it. And allowing myself to make mistakes and not take things too seriously has been wonderful. It's allowed me to grow. So I suppose what I'm saying is relax, enjoy getting things wrong, embrace it. These videos that I'm making now are not going to be perfect. I listened to a book by Stephen King recently talking about the process of writing and how he learned his craft. And he mostly learned his craft by writing and submitting stories and getting rejections until rejections turned to feedback. He got some feedback from somebody and that inspired him to keep going. And then eventually the feedback turned to acceptances. And yeah, it's a great story. I'll put a link to the book, or at least the audio book, in the description, because it's a great story of how it's taken him a lifetime to perfect his craft, and he's still perfecting it in some ways. There's always ways to improve. There's a saying that wisdom comes from experience, and experience comes from lack of wisdom, and that kind of sums it up really. It's experience that makes us wiser, but we have to be free to experience life, get things wrong, learn from our feedback. Thomas Edison, when he was asked about inventing the light bulb and the amount of effort he put into doing so, he tried thousands of things before he got a light bulb, an incandescent light bulb that worked. But he viewed all of those failures as feedback. They were all lessons that got him closer to his ultimate goal. And whatever you want to do, whether it's playing music, writing a story, being better at English, being better at math, being better at physics, you have to embrace the fact that getting things wrong is part of the learning process. Even life, relationships are often quite difficult. And being able to take your time to learn things, make mistakes, laugh about it, is really important. We're often under a lot of pressure to get things right, to be perfect all the time, and that's just not natural. Look at a small child when they first start playing with building blocks. They try to build a tower, it quite often doesn't get very high and it falls over and they laugh, and it's funny. And that's part of the learning experience. We need to embrace that as adults as well. Enjoy the process of discovering things by getting things wrong. So recording outside is a bit of an experiment. I've got a bit more comfortable with recording at home, but there's nobody to see me doing that. And so I'm a little bit self-conscious recording in a public place with a camera pointing at me, hoping that not too many people come past. So thank you for listening. I hope you've learned something. I hope it's made you think about failure in a new way. I hope you found this useful. And remember, I'm Leslie, and you've been upgraded.
Oh.